So today we are going to go over my Introduction to Brush Lettering guide. This is just part one, which covers all the basic strokes and how to form the lowercase letters. So what you'll need is the guide itself, which you can get in my Etsy shop for a digital download. There is also a limited number of brush lettering packages, which include the brush lettering guide, the pack of tracing paper, which is also highly recommended for this, so that way you can keep reusing the sheets. Plus, not all printer paper is good for your marker tips. Also come with 10 Crayola markers and the Rhodia dot pad to practice on once you learn all the strokes. So there's that. Okay, so to start, it's designed to use with Crayola markers, which are really great for beginners. And you don't have, they're really cheap, so that way if it turns out this isn't for you, you didn't spend a lot of money on it. They're also really cheap to replace if you end up ruining some of your markers. So to start, there's a nice note for me, which I won't go over because I'm talking to you. You have the table of contents. Then we will start with the upstroke and downstroke. So I'm going to use tracing paper. Still super easy to see. So to start with your pen, you can choose whatever color, but you're going to hold your pen at about a 45-degree angle. Now when you move your pen upward like this, you're going to press very lightly. And then when you go downward, you're going to press harder to get a nice thick line. Keep doing that. These are called upstrokes and downstrokes for obvious reasons. So each section, we'll first go over strokes and then go over some letters you can make with those strokes. And first I'll let you trace them, and then it will have you do it on your own. So the first letter we're going to do is I. So you can draw the dot first if you want. I usually do it last. You go down with a nice thick stroke and then up with a thin stroke. Just keep doing that. And when you write these letters, you don't want to write them straight up and down. You want them to be at a slight angle. Kind of like when you learn cursive in school, you learned everything should be at an angle. I'm not going to keep writing all those because that is a lot, and I've already practiced this a ton, and I don't want to make this video super long. So the next letter that uses these strokes that's very similar to the I is the T. So you do a downstroke, nice and heavy, go up to the midline. So this middle dotted line is called the midline. If you notice the I, well, I'll reline it up. The I goes up to the midline and stops. That's where, like, letters A, O, they're going to stop in that midline. But taller letters like T will go all the way up to the top line. Other letters, they'll go down to a lower line. So we'll reline this up. Now this one also has a sidewards motion, which is going to be just like an upstroke, nice and light, but you're going sideways. You add these together and you have a T. Super easy. Another letter that follows these is B. So you do a downstroke, lift up, do an upward stroke, and then a little tiny curve to make your V. So you don't have to fully stop for this if you don't want to, but especially for beginners, it's usually easier to kind of stop there and restart, so that way you can make sure you're using that light pressure, because you don't want to have a thick upstroke. Okay, so I believe now it's time for the next stroke here. So the next stroke is downstrokes with a loop. And these can be done 2 different ways. So this first one, you start at this midline, you go up to the top line, and then you do a nice hard downstroke. So light upstroke to the midline and curve around to the downstroke. Keep doing that. And then for the next one, you start at, this is actually the midline again. This will be for letters like P. I can't think of what other letters right now, but P uses this. Oh, J. So you start at the midline, go all the way down past that bottom line to, I don't remember what this line's called, but you go down there and then lightly up. Then you try it on your own. So the letters we're going to cover with that are letters L, J, and F. Start with a new page here. P we're not learning quite yet because it has some other strokes in there that we have not covered yet. So with an L, it's pretty much like that first one we learned. So you start the midline, go up to the header line, all the way down to the base line, and then back up to the midline. These strokes right here are for when you connect it to other letters. Now the way I'm showing you guys to draw these letters is only one way. There are multiple ways to draw most of these letters, and it just depends on your style. This is just one way to get you started, and then as you letter more, you can look at other people's styles, you can look at ads, and figure out what kind of letters work best for you. Now J, you start at the midline, go all the way down past the baseline to that really low line, go around to baseline, back up to the midline. So hard down, baseline, midline, oh I forgot the dot, and the dot will be just above the midline here. Now the letter F is kind of a combination of both of those downward strokes with a loop. Start at the midline, go up and down, and then back up with a light line. You're going to stop a little short of the midline and then draw a second little slightly curved line to the midline there. Okay. And some of these letters might be really difficult at first. I know there are a lot of letters that I struggle a lot with in the beginning. And as you practice more, they will get so much easier. The strokes will get a lot easier. It's not something that comes overnight. I've been doing this for about 6 months. Still not as consistent as I would like to be, but I have made significant improvement. So now we're going to work on compound curves. So these are mostly made up of 2 strokes here. So you start at the baseline, curve around to the midline, and then do it down to the baseline again. And that will be a heavy line there. Next one, you start the midline with a downstroke, nice and heavy, then a nice thin upstroke to the midline. These make up letters like N and M. Okay, so then here we have letter N, which doesn't quite fit there, so we'll do it here. So you make a nice heavy downstroke, start at the baseline, go up to the midline, curve back down to the baseline, and then another one up to the midline. So put all together, you want to start at the baseline here. When you're starting the second part, it isn't just 1 stroke, it's 2. But if you just start up here, it's just going to be spaced weird. It's best to start down here There will be some overlap, but the spacing and angle of the letter is much better that way. Okay, now it should be letter M next. Probably should have organized it better. Guess switch colors here. Go with orange. So with orange, it takes a minute to dry on this paper. Again, you make that heavy stroke, and then you start at the bottom, compound curve, stop, new compound curve, and just like the end, you go back up that second one. So downstroke, compound curve, and up. It actually should be slightly more angled, but that is your M. M and N are one of my favorite letters to write. Okay, W is a number, another letter. It's not a number, it's another letter we use these curves for. So you'll start at the midline, go down, and then back up. Again. And then just like the V, you have this little curve. All together, it looks like this. There's your W. And last but not least, we have U, which is a lot like the W. Down and up. Down and up. It's just two compound curves. Now with this second compound curve, you're going to want to make it a little bit narrower. It's a hard word to say. More narrow than the first one, so that way it doesn't end up looking like a weird W. Okay, we also have the letter X. I forgot I had so many in this section. So the letter X